Good morning, everyone. Um, I wanted to ask, I'm interested to know from your perspective as coaches, we obviously work with a lot of teams across a lot of churches, and one of the things that can be challenging, but also a fun part of the process is when you're getting to know a new team. When you're first, on site with a church, when you're first kind of getting to know who's in the room, the part that they play, and then the dynamic between the people in the room. Um, I'm trying to get better at understanding some of the ways to diagnose kind of the health of a team. And I'd love to hear us chat just for a minute on,
Mm.
when you're in that stage of getting to know a team, are there some maybe key indicators or some common traits of a team that you've learned along the way that are kind of tip you off, that this team has a healthy dynamic, or that this team has a good amount of trust between them, or there's a good amount of unity or camaraderie. What might be some of those things that you've learned to look for when you're getting to know a team?
I think you hit it right there. One of the ones that I've been thinking about is they lead with trust. They like extend trust to each other. They're not super suspicious of each other and wondering, like, they go to the negative assumption, but they always have like the positive assumption in mind that they must have been doing this for a specific reason. If something goes awry, or if something didn't show up on time, or if we butted heads in a meeting, like, there's that kind of that backdrop of trust already that catches a lot of that stuff to make the relationship stay in a healthy spot. Whereas I think when that erodes, that's where it's like, what are they up to? What are they trying to uh, get here? What ulterior motive do they have? What did they mean when they said that? Like, that just quickly erodes the fact that we can't be honest with one another, or even if we are honest with one another, there's another layer of question of like, but what else? And so I think that's a really good one there that you just land. It should be like a foundation, honestly, that they can work from.
That's great.
Yeah, I think this question's really interesting because we might not know this team yet. We might not have all their indicators. We might not know the full history. And so we're in the room. And the biggest thing I think that helps me try to get to this without reading into something that's not there is to try to really connect with the team and watch how they're connecting with each other. How are they engaging? Are they receiving what each other's saying well? Are they speaking to each other in a life-giving manner? And are they all kind of the we over me mindset and the types of solutions they're talking about while we're there? So a lot of times what's good for everybody might be a challenge for an area I'm working in. And so am I able to observe, are we able to observe how they're engaging with each other and moving toward the mission? Are they willing to grow and willing to go forward together in the way they're talking, the way they're maybe helping each other see blind spots and a problem they're trying to solve, whatever it is, because right now we are in learning mode ourselves when we're first seeing a team. So we really are looking a lot at behaviors, and then maybe using those as an opportunity to connect and get deeper and deeper with the team.
Bill, what do you think?
That's good. I mean, I think it's a big topic. I think there's a lot of angles to it, but as we would go in and assess kind of where is the team at, whether it's our team or whether it's somebody, one of our partners' teams, an organization of any kind. I think of, if I come in, is there clarity? Is there, who are you? What are you trying to do? And how are you doing it? If those things aren't clear, that's kind of the initial indicator of there's nothing to coalesce around if you don't have clarity up front. So I look for, understanding if people very quickly articulate what they do, why they do it, and how they do it with other people. And so I think that's a big one for me up front. And I think it kind of dovetails into the other one for me is collaboration. if you meet with a person on the team, does anybody else's name come up? Is there any, when people have questions, do they pull somebody else in the room and you can see the collaborative effort, or is it a series of soloists, if you will, meaning very smart people that are doing a great job, but they don't seem to do things together, if you will. There's not a lot of joint effort, because I think that's one of the biggest things, which is a hard thing to get to, but to get to a place of collaboration where people are looking to partner within the organization to get things done and to help people.
Yeah. I've heard you coach around that subject a lot, Phil, of how effective teams have to kind of evolve past just being a collection of individuals representing individual areas of the church to becoming a team that feels like a collective responsibility around leading and growing the church. But that's not necessarily an easy transition to make. I know that the leader of that team, obviously, that's got to be a huge responsibility of theirs to help grow the team in that direction. But what would you suggest if I'm a leader and I've got a group like that, but I'm trying to foster more collaboration, more unity with this team, not just have a team of people that are only thinking about their little area? How do we get there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's two pieces. I think one is you have to build a culture and a mindset that you're, especially if it's the leadership team of a church, that your job is to lead is to be a part of a team that's leading the church versus you're leading your department. That it also means you have great responsibility, and you're certainly the only one that's directly responsible for your lane or your department. But I think oftentimes when your focus is, I'm leading this function or this department, and if it's amazing, we'll be successful, that's step number one. But if your mindset isn't, I'm concerned about how we're representing ourselves, how we're delivering things, how we're connecting people with Christ in a general sense, then we all join together and we lead the church. I'm responsible for my department, but I'm on a team that's leading the church. So we're thinking holistically about what people need, and which, feeds into a lot of that. I think
Phil, if I could, because Christy mentioned this, you mentioned this, I wrote it down as Christy was mentioning it. The way I've heard it or even used it is you got your mentality when in the room is church first, team second, or area second, ministry second, department second, whatever it might be, is that I'm first and foremost called to help build the church. And then I'm responsible to do that through my ministry area. And I think what's so hard sometimes with especially younger leaders is this is the only ministry area I've ever been in. So I feel like this is my world. I'm going to be the first one to raise my hands. I remember very clearly, it's probably 2000 and I don't know, it was a long time ago, but my senior pastor sat me down in my first assignment and he said to me, and I'll never forget this. He said, do you want to build your kingdom or do you want to help me build the kingdom of God? Of course, luckily we were having this conversation over pizza, but he was talking to me about building the youth ministry at my church and how that could like be the biggest youth ministry in the city. And I had all these dreams and it was like, oh crud. Like, that's not what I want to do at all. Like, I definitely want to help build the church, not just that space. And as you extrapolate that a little bit, you realize not everybody's going to be in that same position forever. Like, you might be in there 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, maybe 10, but ultimately there's still another step that you take in the church, in the organization, hopefully as the organization grows. So in reality, I need to be church first, area ministry second anyway. And then what that does is that gives me ownership. That's what I am thinking as you're talking, like it gives me ownership of the big mission and the big calling. So
yeah, I think, Greg, the other part too is when it comes to collaboration, I think oftentimes we are, if culture is what you celebrating correct, are we celebrating individual accomplishments with your personal leadership, with something your team did which is great. Again, these things are all good, but how much are we celebrating the fact that somebody who had, if you will, a resource surplus or had a full team, donated a person, proactively went to somebody who had a deficiency on their team, who needed resource, who needed expertise, and said, hey, I want to help out with this without being asked proactively, and sacrifice for somebody else. Do we have ways to find those things out, celebrate them? Because otherwise it becomes, how quickly can I scale and build my department? And, we're all looking to add value, and it gets confusing sometimes, I think, when we celebrate you have a full team versus celebrating how many people you've sent to other teams to provision other teams to win. And I think that's a part of collaboration, is proactively doing those things. And I think if we celebrate those things and highlight them, they start to become things people strive to do.
Yeah.
I think
Awesome.
that's so good, Phil. And I think sometimes when we think about growth, all of our contexts can impact what we think about first. And a lot of times in an organization, we're thinking about growth like, did our numbers get bigger? Did we attain our goals, more than last year? And those indicators are important. Or we might be a growth-minded person that's like, did I personally do better? Do I have goals for myself? Am I developing myself? Am I putting in the work? But I really appreciate and love a growth of a team that comes because there was an atmosphere where people were encouraged to learn, and learning normally comes with a lot of mistakes and a lot less efficiency and a lot less effectiveness by the people who are in the learning mode. And we all always are learning, but the growth that collectively comes from being in an environment where we are allowed to try and work on things, coach each other, help each other, and learn forward and grow forward. And so that's what I really love to see in the teams that I've been on, that I've felt the most growth personally, is that I felt safe to talk about ideas, try things, receive coaching, and feel like that's going to be received with a certain amount of encouragement, because everybody's better if I can get better.
It's good.
I had something similar. As I'm thinking, they're accountable. Indicators of a strong or healthy team, they're accountable to each other, not just to the leader. So again, that kind of goes back to that collaboration concept, or that accountability concept, is that because we have a shared vision, because we all understand the role we play at this level, we can actually say, hey, we're only as strong as our slowest person. So it's like, everybody's got to encourage each other to say, hey, come on up, join us here, get stuff done, communicate effectively. Like that's some of the pieces I've seen has been best, because it's not just like, well, leader tells me I have to do it, so now I'm going to do it. Until that leader tells me to do it, I won't. So I think that's super helpful to say we're encouraging each other to get better every day, and I think it just sharpens everybody on the team, because they know not only can I be challenged by my teammates, but I can also, if I see something, I need to encourage them and challenge them as well.
Yeah, I think that's a hallmark of all good athletic teams. I grew up playing a lot of sports, so I saw really good expressions of this and really poor ones. Is all the best teams I ever played for didn't just have a great coach of the team, but they had really good leadership within the team itself. A lot of times in the form of like a team captain. I've always thought that's a helpful mental model for building effective teams. Is if I'm the leader of a team, I can only take it so far through my own leadership. I have a specific authority over this team as the leader, but in some ways that can actually be limiting, because people know that, well, that's the leader, so we have to follow what this person says to a certain degree because of authority. But there's so much power that comes from someone on the team that's a peer, who may not have positional authority, but they have influence. And they're going to use that influence to challenge, to hold people accountable, to to encourage and help develop the other people on the team. But when you have that kind of team captain element within the team, that can be a really powerful dynamic.
So, Greg, how do you infuse that? Like, just, okay, well, I want to implant that into the team and then help it spread so that everybody is embracing it.
I think it's identifying, who are some of the people on the team who might have that capacity to lead in that way or influence in that way in kind of a team captain sort of role, and literally just speaking that into them and kind of calling it out of them. I remember a very specific time when I was leading a team, and I was actually getting frustrated because I felt like I'm the leader and I have to just push this team all the time. I'm always just trying to get everybody motivated, get everybody to take ownership. And that's when I kind of realized, there's only so far I can take them through my own authority. I need this team to start pushing one another. So that's where I identified, someone else on the team. And I just pulled him aside and I started saying, hey, I need you to start stepping up in these meetings. I need you to start pushing this issue. It can't just be me. I need you to challenge this. I need you to give people feedback. And then even tactically starting to find places to be strategically hands off or strategically absent as a leader, I think is really important. The same guy I'm talking about, at one point I said, hey, I'm just not going to show up to the meeting today. And I know everybody's used to me always being in this meeting and me always leading this meeting, but this time I want you to lead it. And I need you to pick up that torch and start, influencing this team a little bit more. And that can be a hard thing for a leader because sometimes we have the fear that if I take my hands off the steering wheel, the whole thing is going to crash. But we've got to be looking for those moments where can I step back a little bit? Where can I give someone else the space to step up into a little bit more leadership as well?